Okay, it's recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Soul Purpose Sneak Peek. I also like to call like a Soul Purpose conversation, Jan, because we're simply having a conversation about Soul Purpose group and also what we are doing inside of the Soul Purpose group, which things are expanding rapidly. We're putting systems and structures in place. Um, And today I wanted to talk about the three fundamental principles that are embedded inside of the Soul Purpose group. It's really important to, you're talking about the art of building a community. And community, when people come, I think the key is for people to feel belong to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the beginning, when people join, because there are all kinds of community in the world, there is a little hesitation, but the language that we're using or the feeling that they feel when they enter the group, they have this sort of palpable sense of, oh, this is a little bit different, or I feel belong to, right? And it's interesting because I come from a like a membership based health club background. So the whole business model is to be a member and the membership, right? And it's interesting to really understand the underlying psychology behind what actually means to be a member. Like, we sometimes a lot of the gyms tends to focus on the product and the services. Oh, you get this, you get it. When you join this, you get this. When you join this, you get this, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
think what underneath that, what helps people to be there and wants to come back and to stay connected is for them to feel internally how much they feel belong to. So to be a part of. That's what it means to be a member. So I think it's more around the internal value or the of course, there needs to be some sort of aspect where being in the group can facilitate growth. Being the group, you can be inspired, you can feel connected, and you can share stories and informations and celebrations. So the sharing, the act of sharing, provokes connectivity. um, but I think building the culture is something that I have been really passionate about. And I think from the moment we built and I created the school group, I immediately felt the need of having some fundamental principles. So the principles are, we're going to talk about that, the three principles. But before we get into that, though, I would love for you to share a little bit. What does it mean for you to build a community in your perspective, in your lens?
It's a good question. um, so I think, as you said, like it needs to feel like home. It needs to feel easy, not overwhelming, inviting, and but also, I guess what's probably important for me as a member is that it challenges me.
Mm,
It challenges me uh, to do the things that like there's communities that are all about having fun, and that's fine. And then there are communities that have a bit more direction, and it can still be fun.
mhm,
But I think particularly what I love about our community is that, something that you said quite a while back of, rather than trying to fix myself, think more about who do I need to become in order to get where I want to go.
mhm,
And this community has done exactly that for me,
mm,
because I constantly get an opportunity to step out of my comfort zone, which historically was to, lurk and learn very passively and it, and and on my own, But the problem with that was that, in all honesty, it was lonely. It took a very long time. There was no accountability. I mean, I'm pretty good with my accountability, um, but if I, it's when I had to go back to school about 10 years ago, and I tried to do like homeschooling, online schooling, and I really struggled with that.
Mm.
I got it done, but I really struggled. And then so the next year, I just decided I want to go back. I want to go and sit in classes and and participate and be a member, and it was nice because I looked forward to it. I enjoyed going to school. I got there the first day with high hopes to be to find the right people to hang out with, because historically I hung out with the wrong people
Mm.
in school. But this time I knew that I wanted to learn, and I got there late, and I ended up sitting at the wrong table, and I sat with people, and they said, they're like, the group that you're sitting with, this is going to be the group that you do all your projects with for the whole year. And
Mm.
everyone was like half asleep and not really interested and probably didn't want to be there. And behind me, there was it was like a group of ladies, and they were talking about like WhatsApp groups and how they're going to get together and,
Mm.
making plans. And I just took my chair and I turned around like this,
Mm.
and I said, I'm going with you guys,
Mm.
because the I just the energy was there, the plan was there, and I'm so grateful to them. I'm still friends with those people to this day, and we had so much fun that year. I can't even remember the people that I sat down with, really, and or what happened to them.
Mm.
Um, so there's something to be said about, again, taking action. But to answer your question about making a cool community, it I guess the short answer is what culture does it have?
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because culture is something that I actually study in even school, right? Um, like a culture, organizational culture, and emotional intelligence work environment. That was one of the curriculum, right? And it fascinates me because I guess at this point, spirituality and psychology to me cannot be discussed without sociology.
Hmm.
In culture and group and tribes, that's sociology. And when we understand the nature of identity and how we form personality, uh, the understanding the social setting and the dynamic is essential. um, I want to go one by one the principles. And the first one is actually my favorite, and I'm gonna say the second one is my favorite, and the third one is my favorite. But the first one is really my favorite, which is the law of circulation. So this is very interesting because the law of circulation is to understand, to begin giving in order to produce a reciprocal effect. And when somebody joins, let's say, when we think of joining a gym or joining a club or joining a school group, 100% of the time when people join something, they are joining because they want to receive something, right?
Hmm.
Nobody joins something from the intention of giving. That's not just a natural nature, right? Because
Exactly.
there's something inside of the group, so they join for them, and then they join and they kind of check it out and see, to feel where I can receive from, right? That's how people perceive value.
Hmm.
But then I think the fundamental principles and the foundation that I want to lay out in the group is that And then I come from Jan. I come from the assumption and an understanding that everybody has something to give.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the less somebody believes in themselves, the less wants to participate in sharing. Yeah. And the fundamental desire that I have is to actually turn that around, because the whole idea, just like you said, is to become that identity, to unfold, removing all the limits. And when we begin removing all the limits in the realm of personality, we all have a gift and the voice and the message. So
Mhm.
if we come from that place, the low circulation in the group means that we are actually telling everybody that you have your own voice, you have your message, and what is that? And if you feel like you don't have that, what's in the way? And let's identify that, because
Mhm.
everybody has a gift and the message and a voice. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. That's how I feel like, right? We came here on earth because, or we came here and we developed and constructed some voice and message through our experience, and it's worth sharing. Just like, TED Talk, talks about
Mhm.
worth sharing. And then I think the underlying intention of that circulation is for people to feel that way, And at the beginning, people need to sort of warm up a little bit and interact with people for them to feel comfortable. Um, but I think ideally, what the group is taking people to is to for each one of us to be able to see the light in them,
Mhm.
right? And if your light is brightly shining, you naturally are gonna want to begin giving. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
when somebody wants to receive, it means that that person might not be actually recognizing their own light. But then the reverse is that when you begin giving and when you begin noticing, oh, how much I actually am touching these people through my giving, then you start recognizing the light that was already inside of them,
Mhm.
and you suddenly step into the divine self, the ideal version of you. So this is something I learned from Neil, right? Neil Donald Walsh, Conversation with God, is if you feel like you have something more that you want to receive, that you feel some lack thereof, begin giving, which
Mhm.
sounds contradictory, but that's living in
Mhm.
harmony with the universal law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, going to Neil, his book, The Essential Path, I think it's called.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the timing of that is just so perfect because he's this. What came up for me when you were talking about this is that it's such a important topic, given like everything that's happening in the world at the moment.
Yes.
And uh, it's it's very easy to be selfish right now,
Mhm.
given everything that's happening. It's very easy to be fearful about me, given everything that's happening right now.
Mhm.
And but the my opinion is that the solution is definitely not in building bigger walls and stocking up on weapons and
Yeah.
and going to war. It's the it's it's just interesting that there's so much us versus them language going on at the moment,
Mhm.
uh, and people are feeling more and more isolated and more fearful. And but if we're talking about one person, like you were saying, like, one person comes in and they're looking for a solution for themselves and they want to get something. It's the same thing in a bigger sense.
Yeah.
It's the same solution. Is that we can't. I've always believed that my primary purpose is to help those around me as much as I possibly can. Um, uh, it I've never, my first job was in a gym, and I I I really thought to myself, like, what is the point of getting strong? Is it like so that I look good in the mirror? Like, is it so that I'm more able or more strong or more? Am I doing it just for me? And really sitting with that question, and then, you know, what is the history of strength training, and where does it come from way before gyms and way before training soldiers and way before even gladiators or anything like that. And it's like, why do we have this ability to be stronger,
Hmm.
like it's in a physical way? It's There's a reason for it, right? It gives us a capability to get things done, to survive, I guess. But it's not just about my own survival. It's We get strong so we can better help us and the tribe or the family or the
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
Um, and that sort of rings true for all of it. We get better at stuff and stronger in various ways, so that not for me alone,
Hmm.
because what's the point of that? Um, the the thing is that whatever I achieve in this life just for me is gone when I die.
Hmm.
If I do it just for me when I die, no, there's nothing left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're you're talking about I versus we,
Yeah.
and how I don't know if I share with you, the I versus we is going to eventually lead to either illness or wellness. You know, illness stands from I, wellness stands from we. And I think
I love that.
it's interesting that you're talking about what's happening in the world, because what we're talking about right now, and especially when we get to the third principle, wounds versus essence, fear versus love, resistance versus expansion, it's just an extension of that, right? It comes from within, and what's being manifested in the world outside is just that intersection of which one are you choosing.
Mm.
Yeah. So the law of circulation is something that I have sort of intentionally used in my own life, and I think when somebody truly begin living that, everybody actually will benefit from it, because you're just kind of harmonizing with that law. um, I want to talk about that wound versus essence, though, because it's a good time to kind of move into the principle number two, which is something that caught your attention, Jan, when you joined, and maybe you can share about that, where we are living in this dichotomy of soul essence versus identity, personality, and we are much more than the finite mind and the personality. And I like to look at everything from a infinite spiritual point of view. And I think, just like also, the illness care system that we have, there is a tendency in our minds to focus on what's not working, focus on what we see as a problem, focus on the fear part of us, so we can get rid of it or fix it, or we can do something about it. And we want to pay attention to that and identify that, but then we grow what we put energy into it. So at some point, we want to realize that that's not what we want to give our attention and an energy into it, because then you're self-defining who you are not. So
Mhm.
I guess, the idea that we're spiritual being living in a physical body and gifted with intellect, and when we truly understand what that means, you can not not focus on the essence, because that's who you are. So would you like to share a little bit of your perspective, your experience of the wound versus essence?
Mm. Yeah. So, I mean, last time when we were talking, I mentioned, you, the if the story of the essence, which is said in another way, the belief that everything that happens to me in this life is happening for me, and we can dive deep into that for hours. Why? Like, what's the point? Because that's the question that comes up for people often, is like, why do I have to feel pain?
Mm-hmm.
Or why do I have to feel not good in some sort of way? Or why did I have to go through this? Or why did my partner die? Or why did my child die? Why did my grandmother have a car accident? Why is there war at the moment? Why? Um, when we get into those extremes, it can be challenging to have a perspective of that it's all happening for me. Um, and we can get into conversations about that. But the other side, the wound, as we call it, which is life is happening to me. Uh, what inevitably happens, and what happened to me, was that the pain gets so much that uh, I woke up one day and I was like, okay, I'm going to try and start trying to fix this. And then you start doing all the things. You start looking for solutions. And I'll just talk about one of them, which was therapy. And talk therapy. And I had a really wonderful therapist. She was great, and she helped me a lot. And but after years, 2 or 3 years of seeing her, um, I felt better. It fluctuated, but something still wasn't right. And what I subsequently realized was, whether I'm in the fetal position on the couch, or checking out, watching Netflix and eating junk, or or whatever it is that I'm trying to do, or I'm journaling and doing breath work and going to therapy and doing all of the things, it's still the same frequency, or the same container. So whether I'm working on it or I'm not working on it, I'm still here. I'm still in the story of the wound, because my belief system says that there's something wrong with me, or something has happened to me, or there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And self-improvement, never mind, just let's say that there is no trauma or no baggage or nothing like that, but there is this idea that I need to be better. And then I go on this adventure of trying to be more successful, get a partner, make more money, have all the things and whatever. Those people also too eventually get to a point where they're like, well, what's the point of that? Well, I'm speaking generally. I can't speak for everyone, but the point is that, the Buddhists say, a Buddhist nun that I like very much, Pema Chodron, she says often that self-improvement is an aggression against the self.
Hmm.
It's this belief that there's something wrong with me, or something needs to be improved.
Mm-hmm.
And then this gets into this and that always sat with me, but it was a little bit open-ended and sticky for me, until you said once, you can have anything in life, if it's the soul's desire, and the soul's desire, as we sort of believe, is to experience. that whatever you choose to do is just to enrich the experience. It's not to, when you get there, you feel more whole, more successful, more loving, more, that the destination is what's important, not the experience or the journey. I love all of this language, and I can talk about it for a while, but the point is that to get from here to here, from the story of the wound to the story of the essence, I didn't get, maybe I became more ready by trying to do all of those things, the different modalities, but what got me to switch over was we spoke about this last time. You said some stuff in a workshop, and the part of me that heard it was not the part of me that was hurt. Right? My ego was or my pain body, or whatever you want to call it, depending on which teacher you listen to. Like that's not what heard what you said. You said in your own words that everything is a perception, including trauma. And it's a very bold and gaslighty type of statement. If you're not ready to hear that, it'll make you angry.
Yeah.
How dare you challenge, like this horrific thing has happened to me. How dare you? But I'll leave it there, because
can I share about that? Because I mean, I'm sure that if I say perception, trauma is a perception, there are a lot of people who get triggered, and I might receive some messages, right? But here's the point. Sometimes the terminology trauma contains an energy and meaning of helplessness, of something outside did this to me that I have no control over, right? All of the above. The trauma seems to imply those language. And I'm not neglecting anybody who had challenging experiences, or to not to be insensitive to those people in any means. But unless we decide to change how we look at it, you will forever be in that traumatized state. And my question is that what you want? Right? So the invitation of this shift in perspective is to help those people who are trapped in that. Because here's the thing. One of the things that we must understand is to understand that there's an outside event and the inside experience. And when we put responsibility in something, anything, everything in the outside to take care of the experience inside, you will never be able to release, because we cannot change the outside. And then, as I say this, I'm thinking, okay, there might be somebody who had a really tragic, right, experience in the family, right? And the situation is situation. How we want to choose to look at it is on us, right? And then you will.
It's the only part you have. It's the only part you have control over.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess to make what I just said in one or two sentences is that when we identify ourselves as somebody who has trauma, that perception itself is giving your power away to something outside that you can never control over, which is not effective, or it doesn't serve the person, right? So I think whenever I said your trauma is your perception, is a message of love for me.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's also just important to mention that, because probably people haven't heard, you were at the time you were I think basically running a workshop on perception. So it was there was a lot of context to it. It wasn't this and we're taking this snippet out of it,
Yeah.
which is so the point was that you were making was you were talking about perceptions and beliefs and that area,
Yeah.
and somewhere in there you had mentioned like even your wound is a perception,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we've taken it completely out of context.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of people who experienced that sort of challenge in the past was formed based on the past perception that we might have not be aware of even what perception is back then, even
Yeah.
adults. And when we grow up, most people might not be aware of the filter that we are perceiving through. So it's good to it's a very, very good to become aware of. And you know what, it's interesting though, because if there's one if somebody asks me what is the number one thing that is important to align with the soul purpose, what is the number one thing that is important to awaken into the spiritual self, I would say to recognize the choice in your perception.
Mm.
That would be the number one thing, even to integrate the spiritual aspect of us and the personality, to recognize the choice in perception or shift in perspective, because that's where everything begins, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these words, they're big, profound words, I guess, and they've and there's dictionary meanings and there's personal meanings and there's, I mean, that's it. The meaning is but it's an opportunity in every moment to observe, because the perception is built, over a lifetime. It's
Yeah.
everything that's happened to me that influences this very moment. It's like a type of glasses that I wear, and it affects. But when I become aware of that, when I notice it, when I'm in difficult moments and I get triggered, or I whatever it is comes up, if I can become more and more aware of that,
Hmm.
then it's not just about like, oh, this horrific thing in my past happened. Yeah, that's a big thing that influences this moment for sure. But there's millions and millions of let's call them micro traumas that happen to us over our lifetime that 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 uh, that influence how we think and feel about stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
unconsciously.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Perception is a huge topic.
Yeah.
The third principle that we have is a huge one for me, which is an embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me quite some time for me to realize this, and also it takes quite some time for people to get this. Especially like, for instance, we are publishing this video on YouTube, which is another sort of search engine, which is a place to collect and gather information, right? So when people have something that they want to see differently in their life, it's a natural tendency to seek and go after gathering information to learn, right? And what I have realized over the years is that I personally don't like I personally don't like when somebody tells me, "Oh, that was helpful."
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for the reminder.
Yes, yes. Yeah. That when somebody tells me that was helpful, for me, I'm hearing, "Oh, it wasn't transformative." That's how I hear it.
Mhm.
Right? And I think I'm interested in transformation, right? So transformation is to really creating a shift in your identity so you can have a different life, different experience. And information is what we learn about, But then to truly learn and to demonstrate and live what you learn, that information needs to sink deeper into your subconscious. So your thought patterns, your feeling, emotional patterns, and belief patterns, behavior patterns changes, and we call that embodiment. To
Yeah.
embody that, and that's the key to change our life and to fulfill our desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna come in with probably one of my, it must be a belief, but this is one of those things that in a way, feels easier said than done, because there's all of these booby traps along the way. And probably the first one is this idea that if I read enough, or if I watch enough YouTube, or if I consume all the spiritual teachers, I'm doing them all: Alan Watts, Ram Dass, Pema Chodron, Eckhart Tolle, Neil, all of them, that it's going to penetrate me, and that something magical is going to happen passively, that the knowledge is going to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And in my own personal case, as a recovering knowledge seeker, if I could even create, but just consuming tons of information, from a place of pain, it only, my life, or I only started to change for the better when I started doing things that were different to the way that I was at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which was, I was quiet, I was consuming information, I was in pain, I was seeking something outside of myself to do the work or whatever. But when I made a decision that, like, I have to start thinking, feeling, and behaving a different way, even though I don't know how to do that, then it becomes a proper action plan, right? Because then it's like, okay, well, again, it's something, the very first call I ever had with you, I think this table used to be different, and I used to have a bookshelf behind me with all of the books, and you asked me, tell me about one of them. And I think, and it's embarrassing, because I've got this trophy behind me of all of the books that I've consumed, and I can't really tell you, like, how it's applying in my life.
Oh.
And what I don't know, I'm not sure if it might have, I think it was you. And yeah, no, and you said to me, you lifted up a book, and it was, the book, like, was beaten, it was well used.
Must be
I think
power awareness.
probably, and you said, I study this book, it's and that's what I did, is I doubled down. I was like, okay, I've only got who I could call teachers. I've got 2 or 3, like there's 1 or 2 on the peripheral, that I'm studying what they are teaching, because out of all of the people that I was listening to and following, they resonated the most with me. And so I chose them. I blocked out all the rest, because it makes it conflicting and challenging, even though the message is the same from all of them in their own way. It's their own perception and understanding. And and then that was the beginning. And then also it was, that I was I am introverted, and I have 1-syllable days sometimes, and but I recognized that I had this horrible voice inside of me that was cynical and judgmental of me and the world, and and I wanted to change that. So I started looking for solutions, and the solution was to actually start talking to myself better, not read books about talking to yourself better.
Yes.
So then it's like, okay, look yourself in the mirror, say some nice things. And now whenever I'm driving, I catch myself in the rearview mirror, I smile and I say something nice. When I'm in the bathroom, I say something nice. I start, even though it felt very awkward and at times uncomfortable, I started doing things. I didn't look for how to do them. I didn't look for another book on how to be nice to yourself, how to, or whatever it was. At some point, the seeking of knowledge needs to just take a break.
Yeah.
And then you got to,
exactly. The question that I often get, Jan, is, okay, how do you actually do, such as such as such? I get that question.
How many times have I asked you that question?
And the answer is,
you did.
You do it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Stop thinking how, you just do it.
Yeah.
I want to share a little bit about the embodiment, though. So what you said, Jan, people read books, and I think the angle and the attitude and intention that we're going to have when we read books, nothing wrong with reading books, nothing wrong with YouTube videos, right? But I think the self-reflection is what we want to actually practice. So when we listen to something or when we read something and there's something that catches our attention, then we have a life that we are living. We have something that we want to see changing our life. And then you connect the dots, right? Or this information is speaking to this part of my life. And then, okay, if I embody that, or if I live what this sentence is talking about, how would I be living, thinking, feeling, acting in this world differently, and begin actually marinating that on a day-to-day basis is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing, right? That's what's missing. And a part of that is people like being distracted and doing a lot of different things.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's me. Or that was me.
Yeah.
Again, it's this. It's just to segue into, just to build some language around what I want to explain here. I hope I don't lose my point. But I'm losing it. So this idea of so if I have like a download of passion or inspiration, right? And for me personally, this is something I've identified. And then I tell people I'm going to do this, and they go, "Oh, great, that's wonderful." Suddenly I don't feel like doing it anymore. Right? Because I've felt the success of doing it without even doing it. People have already told me how wonderful I am, that I'm, and it's this. There's an element of this that I started to notice was, this 5 a.m. club, like crusher mentality of like waking up super early and then walking the dog, listening to an audio book. Doing one audio book a week, maybe two, depending on the size, moving through them, like you feel great. You're crushing life. But are you, it's, for me personally, maybe there are people that can multitask like that and that can take the information. For me, I have to take it and I have to study it. I have to sit down with it. I have to reflect on it afterwards. I have to ponder about it. I have to allow it to move its way into my language. You'll notice that there's certain themes that I talk about for a while because I'm actually chewing on them myself. And then I move on to the next thing, and then but I'm moving slower and slower through the information because I'm trying to embody it. I'm trying to to have a bit more integrity with it. Because again, talking for myself, I wish I was the type of person who could just walk my dog and go to the gym with earphones on and just consume books like that and remember it and apply it in my life. I really do wish I was like that. It feels great. I really do feel like I'm getting stuff done. But if someone, like what happened, asks me, so what is that book about? Yeah. Or how are you using it in your life? It, that's it's a very embarrassing place to be, because I felt great about all of the consumption,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and feeling great feels great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you just said is a process of integration. It needs to kind of integrate to become a part of your reality, personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So the three principles are low, low circulation, number one, which I love. It's my favorite. Number two is moving from the story of the wound to story of the essence, because that is who you are. The wound is within the finite mind, the stories that we have lived, that we tend to assume that that is who we are, but that is a part of the mind. And the last one is embodiment, to really integrate information in order to transform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
And
any? Mhm, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I mean, as far as the wound into the essence goes, for anyone that's uh, interested, we have a weekly call where we spotlight people that have gone through this experience. It's very powerful for those who are on either side of it. This particular area is not something that you can coach. It's something that you need to become ready to hear. And then when people carry that particular message, it like what happened to me is that it speaks to your soul.
Mhm.
It's there's many books and many coaching and around this, but the best way to experience it is to hear someone talk about it, to
Yeah,
hear someone talk about the horrific thing that happened to them and how they're actually grateful for it.
yeah, yeah,
Because if you can't imagine that, then there's nothing more powerful than hearing someone say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then embodiment, which is it is the community, is it's the whole thing is an opportunity to start becoming the person that you want to be. It's a safe container for that, and you do that through circulation. You do that through participation and taking action.
yeah, yeah. So the call that Jan just mentioned is called Alchemy Call, that Jan facilitate and runs. That's live every week Sunday. It's 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. What time is your time, South Africa?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah. So we have a Soul Purpose School group that we are creating this culture based on the three principles that we share. We have different calls, including the Alchemy Call. We do some mind boost challenges, and I just finished one workshop. We will be doing free training on a monthly basis. And inside of that, if you want to go deeper, there's different sound healing study groups, and Yanni studying any type, any club, and there are all kinds of options for people to actually begin practicing all these principles, to begin practicing giving, so you can create a reciprocal effect and to harmonize with the universal law, to be able to shift from the wound to essence, and then actually to begin embodying what you know, so you can begin living differently. So if anybody who is watching is interested in, we'll post the link to join below, so you can check that out. And there are all kinds of information there, and different content, but also you will see and feel the culture that we're talking about, of connection and belonging embedded. So we are we are on a mission of expanding this group to create a soul purpose movement. So if you any of the things that we talked about resonate with you, please join us, and we want to have more lights and souls who are seeking the awakening and transformation. So do you have
Action
anything?
takers.
Yeah, action taker. Yes, exactly. So if you join, exactly. So if you join, not for the sake of joining, but to participate and actually to begin practicing giving, because you will be surprised how
Changed my
your
life.
life, yeah, how your life is going to change. You know, it is also a platform to actually begin showing up, and then
Hmm.
when you start doing that and begin moving energy, you will see your life outside of that group, things start shifting, because um, infinite intelligence doesn't really care which direction you're giving energy, but it works automatically to begin circulating. So check the link to join the group, and we will see you soon then. Amazing. That good, Jan?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see you in the next video.